Well, I can't believe it. I just spent over half an hour on a video that just went poof. I'm gonna try and go back over a few main things if I get the windows up here. Okay, I wanted to start out by saying that I have been following Nelson Mandela situation before and since his birthday. And sure enough, over a week later, after after his 95th birthday, he's not in perfect shape or anything, but apparently he's still alive and kicking, and getting better by the day. Now, one thing that stands out to me is that during the time that it seemed like he was dying in ICU or whatever, the Right to Die movement was down there definitely trying to push the buttons to let them take care of Nelson Mandela their way, get him out of the way, their so-called death, dying with dignity. I'm glad the family objected to it, didn't want them and their death cult set up. And as a result, former President Mandela is alive, but not well. But at least he's alive. And he's kicking. I think Canada needs to take a look in South Africa. And Nelson Mandela is a better role model than the Royal Societies of Canada in this country. The Royal Societies of Canada had their little wannabe experts of everything jumping on the bandwagon to legalize euthanasia in this country. And since all the kill bills they've tried to pass in this country the last few years, they're pretty upset that they're not getting away with legalizing their killing machine. I'm going to put this article down. And I'm going to go to another article about Denmark. If you want to look at a country as a role model for how to deal with old age, Denmark is it. I found this on Alex Schadenberg's blog, and it says Denmark looks after its old people. Lot, the most famous nursing home in the country, has become an international shrine for anyone seeking another way, a happier way to make a life for people with dementia. And dementia is Alzheimer's. Lot is a big old brick house on the west side of Copenhagen, where 23 men and women live like a family. 70% of the family has dementia. They take Caribbean vacations together. The 98-year-old man on the second floor is falling in love with a 101-year-old woman. Lot's first leader, Thyra Frank, is a rock star of elder care in Denmark. Denmark, like every other country in Europe, is in an economic squeeze. Yet Lot is fully funded and fostered by the Danish government. The underlying philosophy of elder care is well rooted. Every man or woman, no matter how ill or how old, has a right to choose how they want to live. We all know the numbers. Dementia of some sort is catching up with more and more of us. It is a frightening prospect. No one wants to see mom or dad, or to imagine themselves strapped down to a bed in a locked dementia ward, chemically warehoused. But in North America, the choices are limited, which is why the world looks to Denmark, where it is illegal to imprison people with dementia in locked wards, where nursing homes regularly take people on holiday, and where people with dementia are asked what they want to do today. So that's a good, healthy attitude about aging. It really is. And what I find really offensive is the attitude of most of the people who are pro-euthanasia and assisted suicide, that their attitude toward people with Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever you want to call it. No, the money prospect of the cost of living and cost of keeping people alive, it's a sick attitude, sick mentality that drives an economy that way. So I'm really glad to see that Denmark has really got to be a role model for end of life, for elder care. Senior citizens. Another article on Alex Edinburgh's blog about Diane Coleman of the Not Dead Yet organization. She published an article in the New Jersey Star Ledger on July 23rd. She said, proponents of legal assisted suicide for the terminally ill frequently claim that the opposing views of disability organizations aren't relevant. Not very exclusivist, are they? Nevertheless, although people with disabilities aren't usually terminally ill, the terminally ill are almost always disabled. Those are one of many reasons our perspective may offer some insights on this complex issue. People with disabilities and chronic conditions live in the front lines of the healthcare system that serves dying people, and sadly, often underserves them. One might view us as the canaries in the local mine, alerting others to the dangers we see first. Assisted suicide advocates paint themselves as compassionate progressives, fighting for freedom against a religious right. Boo. Watch out. Religious rights around. Yeah. Predictions that someone will die in 6 months are often wrong. People who want to die usually have treatable depression and or need better palliative care. Pressures to cut healthcare costs in the current political climate make this the wrong time to add doctor-prescribed suicide to the treatment options. Abuse of elders and people with disabilities is a growing but often undetected problem, making coercion virtually impossible to identify or prevent. It's not the proponents' good intentions, but the language of assisted suicide laws that legislators need to consider. Now, as he says, the proponents' good intentions. 30 years, I've been pretty good at verbally blasting everybody associated with the right to die movement. But from everything I've learned, I now have to admit there are a few people who do have good intentions, and they really mean well, but they don't have enough information, and they don't have enough thinking to consider the other options which should be available to everybody. As one account of disabled people who survived a terminal prediction, I can't help but become concerned when the accuracy of a terminal prognosis determines whether someone gets assistance, suicide assistance, rather than prevention. The Oregon reports themselves show the non-terminal people are getting lethal prescriptions. One of the many things the reports hide is how many live longer than 6 months. But we do know that those people who are disabled and not terminal when they sought their lethal prescription. Proponents also claim the safeguards to ensure it's voluntary are working. How would they know? The Oregon reports only tell us what the prescribing doctors indicated for the patient's reasons for wanting assisted suicide by checking off one or more of 7 reasons on a multiple choice state government form. One of the reasons is feelings of being a burden on others. Check 39% of the cases. But there's no requirement that home care options that could relieve the burden of family caregivers must be disclosed, much less offered or funded. Now, this part about being a burden, this has got to be the most sickening thing that most of them come out with. Oh, I don't want to be a burden. Oh, and these right to die people, that's their whole that's one of the biggest things that they want, reasons they want to get these laws passed, is because it's all about the burdens. You know, when I was a kid, when I was growing up, I remember times the pastor, they come to our house, and when he'd leave, he'd pray over my mother about, oh Lord, we pray for this woman, Lord God, who has such a heavy burden on her shoulders, and things like that. Now that, yeah, right. Okay, I am the bird. Okay. I never said anything. I just kind of like, okay. But, so, how about you? Are you a bird? Yeah. Join the club. One of the reasons is feelings of being a burden on others. And these people have gotten on television, on documentaries and stuff, and really rubbed everybody's noses in it, like what was his name, George Cumbias, George and Betty Cumbias there, and Suicide Tourists documentary a few years ago. That guy is despicable, and that guy ought to be thrown out of the country. Send him back to Europe where he came from. So down here it says elder abuse is notoriously undetected and underreported. Some people are safe, but with more than 175,000 estimated reported and unreported elder abuse cases in New Jersey annually, many are not. The two witnesses who attest to the absence of coercion don't actually have to know the person, although one can be in error. Nothing in the law would stop a family member from urging someone to choose assisted suicide once the lethal drugs are in the home. With no witness required, the drugs could be administered with or without consent. Who would know? When we're talking about changing public policy that impacts the healthcare system we all depend on, in the real world of families that are not necessarily all loving and supportive, the legislators have an obligation to think of everyone, not just those who are safe from the very real risks posed by assisted suicide legislation. So, concerning the right to die movement, um, in Oregon, they seem to run the right to die movement and the healthcare system. All the reporting's done by them. So it's time to oh yeah, in India I really paid attention to that. Over a week now since Mandela had his birthday party, and he's been getting better every day. I think it's a whole lot better to put an end to any further campaigns by the right to die movement. It just should be not allowed anymore. It's for one thing, long before they have started building their numbers. Doctors always treated their patients, and people never had to worry about, dying in pain and all that stuff. And a lot of the people who have joined to campaign for their own legalized deaths, a lot of them have died anyway of natural causes, and what's a big deal? There's this idea that because the law wasn't passed for them to die the way they wanted to die, doesn't mean anything about dignity. It only shows what fools they are. You know, and but it's the leaders of the Right to Die movement who are cashing in on all this. In fact, Indignitas has gotten so powerful and so much business that now they're hiking their prices. Hey, you guys want to come to Dignitas and die with dignity? Hey, you gotta pay more now. Cough it up, cough it up. Prices are going up. So, I don't care if it's an insult to free speech or whatever, but I don't think these people should be allowed any more campaigns. I don't think they should be allowed on radio and television and pumping out all their garbage about dying with dignity. I really don't. Free speech is one thing, but hey, there's a lot more than free speech, freedom of speech. Has gone into this death cult uh, lunacy for decades. It's time to bury it.